We got breaking news, and it is stunning. Are you sitting down? That word's going to be used a lot during this hot take. The United States Supreme Court has ruled against the Trump administration on a major issue about the Trump administration cutting off the fuel supply to $2 billion worth of funding for humanitarian aid through U.S. aid. And now the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, led by Chief Justice Roberts, apparently, has decided against the Trump administration, requiring Judge Ali to go back through the record and set an appropriate set of deadlines for the payments to be made. But those payment spigots must be turned back on, according to the United States Supreme Court, even while the larger appeal may be going on at a later date. This is a tremendous win for democracy and for the rule of law, and a blow to the 4 members of the Supreme Court, led by Judge Alito, who said that they were, quote unquote, stunned by the decision of the majority to side with a rogue federal judge against the Trump administration and against sovereign immunity. I'm Michael Popok. I'm going to break it all down for you right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. I've got in my hands the Supreme Court decision. Let me tell you how we got here, then I'm going to read from the order. We got here because Judge Ali in D.C., a Biden appointee, after hearing argument and briefing about the Department of State and brought by a set of public interest groups led by AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, because Donald Trump, through Elon Musk, turned off the fuel supply and stopped funding overnight for humanitarian groups, most of them U.S.-based humanitarian groups, where U.S. consumer paychecks are behind and workers and jobs are behind each one of those dollars. He turned it off without any notice whatsoever. Didn't even give those people time to transition to help people who were dying around the world. The reason that U.S. aid existed, and the reason it's an arm of the State Department, it used to be part of our diplomacy. It's the ways that we keep people looking to the West, looking to the United States, keep them out of the clutches of the Russians and the Chinese, help build their roads, their water purification plants, get them food, make sure they don't die from hunger and AIDS, make sure they're literate, and they can thank the United States brand of democracy for it, but not under the Trump administration. It's just $1. Let's get rid of it. Who cares who dies? Well, Judge Ali cared, and he brought everybody together and said, I'm going to order on a temporary restraining order that this money get paid. It became what we call in the business a mandatory injunction, a mandatory restraining order. Then they went to a series of hearings about the fact that the Trump administration had done nothing to comply with the temporary restraining order. And so Judge Ali got annoyed, and there was a motion for contempt. And Judge Ali finally drew the line in the sand and said, here's I'll make it simple for you. You need to turn on the money and pay those contractors the $2 billion by 11:59 p.m., 1 minute before stroke of midnight 3 days ago. Well, the Trump administration didn't like that, so it ran to the United States Supreme Court, and I did some reporting on it already, and I said that the Chief Justice Roberts had stepped in and done an administrative stay for a short amount of time to allow for full briefing, and had set last Friday as a period in which the other side to this, U.S. aid, could file their opposition to the application. In other words, it was really a time buyer by Chief Justice Roberts, not on the merits. Well, the AIDS Coalition filed their brief, and they walked through so convincingly that 5 members of the United States Supreme Court in this new decision have ruled in their favor and have told Judge Ali, get back to figuring out how and when to turn on the spigots of that money for the $2 billion, because we as the United States Supreme Court majority, we're not going to stop it. Let me explain how we got here. Then I'm going to read to you from Justice Alito, joined by who else? The Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas all joined together behind Justice Alito, who wrote literally, I am stunned by the majority decision here and the fact that they have violated the supremacy clause because they're allowing this money to be paid out because of a rogue federal trial judge. Yeah, I don't think so. Let's go through the ruling of the majority, which is again Roberts joining with Amy Coney Barrett, which we have said is the swing vote to watch this term and in the future, joining with Ketanji Brown Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor. Here's the ruling. On February 13th, the United States District Court for the District of Columbia entered a temporary restraining order, that's Judge Ali, enjoining the government from enforcing directives pausing disbursements of foreign development assistance funds. And then from there, after the federal court on February 25th, the district court ordered the government to issue payments for a portion of the paused disbursements, $2 billion. There was a lot more money paused. It was tens of billions of dollars, but $2 billion needed to go out immediately to stop the harm and suffering. Those owed for work already completed before the issuance of the district court's TRO. In other words, the judge was just ordering $2 billion worth of payments be made for work already done, not for future work, but it still amounted to $2 billion and was important. The district court gave a deadline of 11:59 p.m. on February 26th. Several hours before that deadline, so right before the February 26th deadline, the government filed this application to vacate Judge Ali's February 25th order and requested an immediate administrative stay. That is the lowest level of stay any federal court or appellate court can grant. It usually lasts for a very short amount of time, could be hours, could be days, could be weeks, doesn't usually go a month. And it was that short amount of time that Justice Roberts, as the judge over all things D.C., Chief Justice Roberts made that decision. Now, after the full briefing, because the judge asked to have the brief opposing the application filed by Friday, which it was by USAID, the application is denied, meaning we are not going to interfere with Judge Ali's decision to force the payment of the $2 billion. Given that the deadline in the challenged order has now passed, I mean, they're recognizing that time advances, right? So we've already lost the deadline. And in light of the ongoing preliminary injunction proceedings, in other words, you're going to be doing a bigger proceeding about preliminary injunction, the district court, this is direction now to the district court, Judge Ali, should clarify what obligations the government must fulfill to ensure compliance with the temporary restraining order with due regard for the feasibility of any compliance deadlines. Let me unpack that legalese. Your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Maid's bed sheets. Miracle Maid sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather. So you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Sleeping on bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Upgrade your sleep this year. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code LegalAF at checkout, you'll get a free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/legalaf and use the code LegalAF to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/legalaf to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. It's telling the district judge, look, your deadline passed, okay? Go back now to the well. You've got a preliminary injunction, which is the next level up from temporary restraining order. You got a whole briefing and hearing there. Recalibrate and reset your deadlines with due regard to that briefing and give the government enough time to meet your deadline, and we will support it. At least 5 of us will support it. But if you give like a too fast deadline requiring too much too soon, you may not have the 5 votes. That's the subtle hint there from Justice Roberts or to the majority to the district court. The order herefore entered by the Chief Justice, that was the administrative stay, is vacated. Now, here's the big news, is how Alito, in a scorching dissent, took on his majority, just turned in fire on Roberts and the rest and Amy Coney Barrett. Here's what he had to say, joined by Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Thomas. Justice Alito, dissenting. Does a single district court judge who likely lacks jurisdiction have the unchecked power to compel the government of the United States to pay out and probably lose forever $2 billion of taxpayer dollars? The answer is that question is an emphatic no, but a majority of this court apparently thinks otherwise. I am stunned. I'm stunned that you're stunned because I think your analysis is all full of water, is all washed up. His argument, which I'll read from in a minute, is that the decision to pay and to fund using taxpayer dollars is reserved to the executive branch with sovereign immunity, and that you can't order the executive branch to make payments in a mandatory injunction without violating sovereign immunity. Nobody else sees it that way. There's a violation, a constitutional violation of the spending clause, impoundment, which Alito doesn't even talk about, the violation of the separation of powers because Congress already funded this money. This money was already contracted by and was already obligated to be paid by the federal government. So it gets out from under sovereign immunity issues. We have to look at impoundment and the ability and the separation of powers issues, which of course Alito ignores completely. Here's the other part. Alito says, even if the majority is unwilling, this is on page 4, is unwilling to vacate the district court's order, it should at least stay the district court's enforcement order until the government has time to appeal, has time to issue a writ of certiorari, right? He then says, we got to look to sovereign immunity. Again, I think that is, he completely ignores the impoundment aspect of it. And then we have this kind of summary on the page 8 over to 9. Today, this is Alito, but for the 4 in minority, the court makes a most unfortunate misstep that rewards an act of judicial hubris, that's Judge Ali, and imposes a $2 billion penalty on American taxpayers. The district court has made plain its frustration with the government, and respondents raised serious concerns about non-payment for completed work. But the relief ordered is quite simply too extreme a response. A federal court has many tools to address a party's supposed nonfeasance. Self-aggrandizement of its jurisdiction is not one of them. He's really going after Ali here. He's saying, you're taking on jurisdictional power that you don't have, son. And we're the Supreme Court, and we're taking you out to the woodshed. Unfortunately, to take somebody out to the woodshed at the federal court level, you got to have 5 people to do it, and he only had 4. I would chart a different path than the court does today, so I must respectfully dissent. There's nothing really that respectful about the dissent, but that's how that came down. So what does it mean? It means Judge Ali is a lifetime appointed judge. He's going to continue to make rulings like this. The majority was fine in principle with what Judge Ali, his analysis, his thought process, his support for all of this is fine. They just want him to recalibrate the timing and the rest because they see that money, that the judge already took a major step. He already said, there's $30 billion of U.S. aid. I'm only talking about $2 billion that relates to services already rendered. Supplies already generated, money that has to go to them. There's no argument that there's fraud in any of that. There's no evidence that there's any fraud. There's no evidence in the record that there's any fraud. So of course the judge was right. The judge said, I'm not going to administer your program for you. If you want to go on a case-by-case basis and figure out whether there's fraud and determine not to make payments, that's up to you. That's an executive branch function. But you're just stopping the funding, including for work already completed on contracts. That seems arbitrary and capricious under the Administrative Procedures Act and an illegal impoundment under separation of powers. So we know there's at least, this is now the divide we're going to see between, going forward. Watch Amy Coney Barrett. We've said it before here on MeidasTouch Network Legal AF. I've said it on my new show Unprecedented following the Supreme Court. Watch Amy Coney Barrett. She might be right of center, but she is the swing vote. When she votes with the majority, that's the decision. When she votes, for something, that's the decision. Chief Justice Roberts kind of goes back and forth. Listen, we just saw Chief Justice Roberts basically get a fist bump from Donald Trump during the joint address to Congress last night. Won't forget you. Good job. Whatever. But that didn't help. I think the more you make Roberts look like your puppet, the more he's going to rebel against that, and he's going to end up issuing orders like this one. I'm going to continue to follow it all. You're on MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button for MeidasTouch, #1 YouTube channel out there. Help Legal AF continue to grow its pro-democracy channel. We're going to hit 500,000 this weekend, all because of you. And then, of course, we got Legal AF, the podcast, at the intersection of law and politics every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this YouTube channel and on podcast platforms of your choice. I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.